Hi everyone, happy to be here. I'm just a second. Hi, I'm Neta. I've been with Cloudinary for 6 years now, and today I lead the product management group.
Hi, I'm Nofar. I've been in Cloudinary for the last 2 years now. I'm leading the R&D operations team.
So thank you for joining us. And maybe before we start, I'd like to set expectations, and that is that there is no magic solution here, and it's really hard work. So it has to fit your organization, and basically we're here to share our story. I mean, we made a significant improvement. We feel that we made a significant improvement, but we're far from having it figured out. So we'd like to share what we did and what worked for us, and maybe some things that didn't quite work for us. And I assume that this is not really a group that needs explanation on why quarterly planning is important, but I do want to spend a minute to say why it was important for us. So first of all, it was really important for us. We all know that sprint is a really short period of time, and it's hard to see when you're zooming in where exactly we're heading. So the quarterly plan has a really important effect, so that each person can understand where we're heading and how they can impact and how they can contribute towards that goal. Second, if we don't know what we set for ourselves, it's really hard to feel that you accomplished something. And third, it's there are other departments in the company who would like to get this some level of predictability of what's going on, how we can coordinate any launch efforts or any deliveries to strategic customers and things like that. So before we start, a little bit about Cloudinary background. Cloudinary started when our founders were actually helping new startups to start their own business, and they kept coming across the same set of media management challenges. That is, that media has to look great and deliver fast on any device. They were actually in the best spot to understand and to act upon this need, and they built a solution for themselves and they used it in their own projects. And this is how the company grew, completely bootstrapped with paying customers from day one and growing with word of mouth. And today, 10 years later, we serve more than 1 million developers, from independent developers with a free account to 9,000 paying customers. And some of these customers are really large customers, and they're well-known brands that you can see here across many verticals, e-commerce, travel, media, entertainment, and they all rely on us to solve their media management challenges and to help them deliver the great visual experiences to their customers. And this nice growth is also presenting a big challenge. So we have a growing multi-product offering. Mentioned a developer product. We're now working on two developer products, one more focusing around editing and the other more around media management, because we realize that our current product is a bit too large to understand, and it consists of several use cases. And it's also beyond developers. We have marketing teams that are also using our product. Our dynamic asset management solution is growing. We started working on a new product for creative automation for marketers, and for that we also recently acquired a company to help us get there faster. And earlier last year, we launched a new product directed more at tech ops and focused on optimizing media with simple clicks. And all these products have different personas and different business needs and goals, and they are at different stages in their maturity. And they require kind of different attention, and we want all these teams, each of these products has a team, and they need to be able to manage their own business targets. But another aspect of this is that these products have to play really well together. They're part of the same portfolio, they're all Cloudinary products, they have to interact with each other, and they all rely on one platform which has kind of the core capabilities that Cloudinary provides around media manipulation and delivery at scale and media intelligence and AI components that know how to handle this media. So this kind of tension that we have between the individual products and their different paths and the single portfolio and one platform is what makes the planning a lot more complicated. And if we couple that with, the teams are growing, it becomes an ongoing challenge. So, starting with some numbers, this is where we started. When we set out to start this process, we had a 45% done out of what we set for ourselves for the quarter. That is relatively low. And this is the measurement after we realized that while things were in progress, they don't have any meaning unless the customers are able to enjoy them. So that's where we started. We had 6 weeks of planning process, and if you take that and couple that with the fact that the plan is not ready when the quarter starts and kind of goes into the quarter, we always started joking that what we're doing, our methodology is continuous planning. So we wanted to make this better, and therefore we set ourselves some targets. We set our targets to reach 80% done. We can debate if 100 is better or not, but we wanted to keep our plans a little bit more ambitious, and we set the goal at 80%. We also wanted to reduce the number of time we spend on planning, because we want to make sure that it's worth the plan. I mean, if we invest a lot of time and don't get much out of it, then what's the point of doing a plan anyway? We also have a projection for our teams to grow, and naturally we want the plan to be ready when the quarter starts. So where we're at today, I'm happy to say that we've made a 50% improvement. We're still not there, but we're at 68% done. We managed to reduce the planning time to almost half. We have our teams growing, which is also, if you look at it, kind of part of the challenge, because we managed to improve the done and reduce the number of weeks it takes. Then we actually have a lot more complexity going on. So it kind of, in our mind, it's even harder to make this improvement while we grow. But I'm sorry to say that the plan is still not ready when the quarter starts, and actually we're asking ourselves, kind of, will this ever be ready when the quarter starts? Will we ever be right on time to hit this? Okay, so our agenda for today is kind of to cover our journey, and for that we've tried to identify different themes and the areas that we made the improvement. So I'd like to start with culture. I think we also saw this in the previous session of how hard it is to drive a change that is behavioral and the mindset that we need to approach. It's a very hard thing, and we'll see it kind of going across the whole presentation. Planning is where we'll probably spend most of our time in the session today, is what we do to prepare for the quarter, enough to kind of set the direction, but not to go back to waterfall, where everything needs to be predefined. We want to find that right balance. Execution, what we emphasized, what things we implemented in order to improve the way we execute. And making sure that we have the ongoing tracking to check how we're doing, what needs to be adapted. The plan is alive. It's not just something static that we start with the beginning of the quarter and it just stays that way. How do we continue to make sure that we're on track for our objectives, even if things change along the way? So I'll start out with culture, and again, this is kind of going to be following with other areas as well, because there are elements of culture in everything that we do. So why? I mean, I'm a product manager. Why should product care about infrastructure? We know it's critical for R&D. Why is it important for product? So if we're shipping a successful product, and Cloudinary has a very a successful product and with really high performance and scalability, and we need to be able to put our existing customers first. So our existing customers are very important. They rely on us for that consistent service and the availability. And if we don't have that, then we can't even, we won't be able to grow further. So that's a first. Second, collaboration between product and R&D is something that is really crucial. I mean, product can't ignore the need to invest in infrastructure and tech debt that we all like to hear. Investing in new technologies is also something that attracts great developers, and that's something that we do want. So it's really important in that aspect as well. And if we look at it towards how infrastructure can also impact our future velocity, and especially how can we make ourselves ready for the growing teams of the future, is to make sure that the infra is built for for autonomous teams, and to be able for each of these teams to be able to control their own plan and react to the business needs is also critical. But I'm still a product manager, and this is a picture I took in a cemetery. This is where you can wash your hands when you're leaving the cemetery, and this was taken at a very far side of the cemetery where users don't really want to go. I'm calling them users for now. They don't really want to go all the way to the main entrance in order to wash their hands. And my guess is that, you know, someone found this need and said, okay, well, let's put 2 spots here where people can wash their hands. 2, because maybe there are a lot of people coming in at once, and they need to be able to, you know, they just, when they're done, they just want to go out. And this seems to work great for the users. But here's what happens on the other side. So the other side, the users don't really care about it, and it's been working like that for 10 years, and you know, maybe someday someone will really want to put some nice infrastructure in there, but so far it's really doing what it should. So the bottom line is a lot of the mindset changes and efforts that we've been making is to constantly say that we really need to focus on the objective. We need to focus on what the users need, not on the work that needs to be done or that we think should be done. Different products have different goals. So the newer products, newer features are very important in the sense that we want to first show their value, to make sure that we validated them, to make sure that they're bringing the value to the user, and only later build for scale. Whereas the main product, the more mature product, scale is critical. And so we really need to make sure that whatever we plan, we make sure that it's adapted to the different stages in the product lifecycle and the different targets that we're actually trying to achieve. Our product preparations to the planning also were something that really evolved. So we started out with something that was this kind of global list of feature prioritization, and to tell you the truth, it was really, you know, it was too detailed, and the big picture was completely lost. So we moved to plan by objectives. There's one objective per product per quarter. And the idea is to first, you know, to focus the teams on really what really matters. And of course, there are other things that will happen along the quarter, but we really need to be aligned on that top thing that really matters. So here are some examples of objectives. So we have let's say a recently launched product in which what we care about is, now that it's available self-service, we want to make sure that we increase the activation rate. And this is coupled with the actual number, and we measure the metric of how many users are being active versus those who registered. And that would be a goal for a team for a quarter. And of course, the initiatives would line up to that quarter. A similar example is in our more mature developer product. We decided that we see a drop in a certain place when users sign up, and we want to make sure that we deliver the initial value faster to developers, so they can immediately see what it is that Cloudinary can offer. And for that, we would measure the number of minutes that it takes until they do an action that we consider is something that is that would show them the value of the product. But not all objectives are necessarily this nice and adoption focused. Sometimes we have objectives like simulating an acquired product. So even an internal goal can be measured with metrics. We would need to see that that the new product fits into our data infrastructure, and that it complies with our security and legal needs. So internal customers are also customers that we can measure with a clear objective and metric. And once we have the objectives, then we start to plan our initiatives accordingly. So we have the list of ideas and we prioritize them. You can choose any method of prioritization that works for you. We use Product Board for managing our requirements. We also make an analysis of the dependencies that we see, which teams would have to help with which initiatives. And eventually what we do is we create this list of candidates, and the list of candidates is backed up with what is the motivation for the feature, what KPIs we expect out of this feature, who's the owner from the product management team, and a suggested scope. And this is what we prepare for the discussion with R&D. And it's a discussion. So what we say is we want to be there. This is what we think we want, and then there could be other options. Maybe we don't need to get all the way to the top. Maybe these other summits are just as good. Maybe they're also meaningful peaks. And maybe all we want is to look to the other side of the mountain, and then this is close enough. What we don't want is to be stuck in the middle somewhere with nothing to show for, or this big hole that we dug and we don't know how to get out of it. And another thing that we don't really want is to build something that's really too big and a lot more than what we need at this point. So with this, I'd like to pass it on to Nofar to share where these discussions happen and about the planning and execution and tracking and how they evolved.
Yeah, so quarterly planning along the way, we changed it a lot. We started with a distributed process because of COVID. This process took a few weeks. We started with a kickoff meeting, and then the team spread to plan their own area. And it was really very, very difficult in terms of dependencies management, supporting the team, seeing the whole picture, connecting the plans to each other's, and more difficulties we had around that. But as COVID stayed with us, we tried to improve and upgrade this process a bit, as much as we could this time. And we added some tweaks and tricks along the way, but the very important one was the product overview meeting that we added a few months after we started. This product overview meeting led by Neta, of course, and our team leads, and they gathered the story of the quarter. They gathered the kickoff of the planning, the story that includes the objective, the overall objective, where we want to go this quarter, what are the P0s, what place we have for changes and plays around. And basically they drew the skeleton of the quarter. And the moment COVID situation allowed us to meet safely, we made sure that people felt comfortable with it, of course, and we took a big step and changed the process completely. And this is how we got to the FPE, which is a focus planning event. One before, yeah. So as a general approach, we believe that taking those formal methodologies as is and forcing it on the organization is the wrong way to go. Every place has its own thing, its own culture, its own habits and history. Yes, some of those habits and history should be changed and improved, but there is no one size that fits all. And with that mindset, we're implementing new processes that, and this is the approach that got us to the FPE. So the idea of FPE is from PI planning. Yeah, we didn't invent it all completely. It's from safe, but it's with our touch and changes. It's a 2 days planning event that comes to answer phone needs and difficulties we had as an organization. So the first one is alignment. We wanted all the team to be alignment, us as the management to be aligned, on the larger goal, the path we want to go, and the FPE help us be more aligned. Second difficulty that we wanted to improve is communication. COVID brought some benefits, but definitely not better communication. The fact that we're all sitting together at the same place at the same time, solving problems and issues that came up on the spot was a game changer for us. The fact that people sit together in the same room and not in their Zoom rectangles improved our information flow dramatically. The engagement is higher now, and we think it's irreplaceable. The third thing that we wanted to deal with is focus. When you send so many teams in the first process, you send so many teams to plan quarter during a few weeks, they might lose the focus, both for the planning process and the outcome. Meetings are spread across a long time, and it was very easy to be sucked up in your day-to-day task. So focus was a thing that we wanted to make sure we are having. And the third thing we wanted to try and improve is dependencies. Until the long-awaited day that we won't have any dependencies and our children won't go to the army, we need to manage those dependencies. We need to help the teams to manage it, understand as much as they can before, and have at least minimum of coordination of the current known details. Next one, please. So as Neta said, we have 18 teams already. They need to work together. They need to have the same rhythm, speak the same language, and serve the company goals. We do have those dependencies, and we want to reduce them, but until then, we need to make sure everyone is aligned. Everyone has their thing, but it has to go well together. We strive to have those musical instrument team plays their melody perfectly alone, but as well as perfectly together with the rest of the orchestra. This is how we see it, and this is how we feel and act like. So yes, Neta and I, for now, acting as the conductors of this orchestra. But with time, we see this role doing the minimum of getting everyone on the same page and aligning on the larger goals. And one important thing is that the orchestra is not only for the planning and plans itself, but also for those 2 days. Those 2 days have to play perfectly together and be very well organized. So in those 2 days of the FPE, we wish to have a plan, not a too detailed plan, not a too high level plan, just the right amount. And we are starting with a short opening. This opening includes the operational side of those 2 days, the cake side, and overall quarter story and objectives by Neta. And recently we had a case study from a selected team with an interesting story of improvement that was like very engaging and great for the group to hear. And right after the opening, we are separated into teams. We are starting with the 30 minutes of OKRs alignment in teams. And then the team are diving into the dedicated discussion about the big works. Big works are the term for large features, epics in the quarter. And in those big works discussion, the team leaders and product manager discuss the feature goal, the motivation, and the general story. And after that, they will dive into breaking down this epic. I mentioned many times that we have dependencies. So sending the team to plan their own part would be very easy operationally if they didn't need each other for the discussions. So we have only 2 days to discuss 18 teams plans. And a lot of sessions are clashing, logistically clashing. So this is how we got to the seating arrangement. So yes, like in a wedding, the night before the FPE, Neta and I are sitting, and we gather all needed discussion and participants and set a seating arrangement, meaning the meeting rooms arrangement. And also we are making sure that people that are needed in the discussion are there. We also make sure that the session don't have too many participants and set ahead a session facilitator. This way we are not making only sure that the session will happen, but also will be efficient and listed. In general, it's very important for us to raise flags in advance, to manage risk and not only solve what we can, but be aware and manage our steps. So yes, we are raising a real flag. We're printing those flags before the FPE with the name of the needed person. So it's kind of a gamification of this thing. But in addition to that, those flags, during those 2 days, Neta, Uri, the VP R&D, and myself, gather once or twice a day to discuss the current issues, the large risk, prioritization issue, and taking decision on the spot. We found it very efficient. We basically clearing the way to the team so they can focus on planning. And after those 2 packed days, we have our summary. In the summary, each team presents the scope, the sprint goals, the risk, and we're having a confidence vote. During the summary, we have a final adjustment to address risk and checking the plan versus the goals and objectives. So to survive those 2 days, we make sure that we are eating well and drinking well. So we also have some fun. But this is how it looks like. This is the board that we are managing during those 2 days. Rows are teams by colors. Columns are sprints, and imagine that completely empty in the beginning of day 1 and filling up slowly through the days. And for each teams, you can see rectangles for sprint goals and circles for dependencies, circles representing dependencies. And as I said before, we are trying to find this sweet spot between too detailed and too high level, and we looked for a solution in the middle where we don't need to have all user story ahead. And we we do know where we're going and anticipate as much as we can. And this is how we got to sprint goals. Sprint goals are, as they are named, sprint goals. The definition had a few cycles and we changed it along a way. But sprint goals can be two things, a meaningful milestone or release, or just a step in the way. A meaningful sprint goal is one that has a clear value to the customer, release to a customer, and a step in the way can be from tech infrastructure to QA readiness milestone, anything that it's not releasable. This helps us balance the high level and the details. Most of the teams feels comfortable with it, but we are still, some still learning how to do it. So there are all kinds of ways for improvement, and you can take the different paths to reach the high goal. And we really wanted to take it step by step and climb the stairs, not slowly, but definitely learn from each stair. It's very important for us as an organization to understand where we go, to know what we want to gain and how. And we still have a lot of steps to go, as we said, along the way. But as a start and in parallel for improvement of the process, the planning process itself, we wanted to make sure our execution skills are taken to the next level. For that, we started with workshops with Michal from Ajimeh around feature breakdowns. Those workshops were dedicated for each couple of team leader and product manager, and were very practical with real life examples. In this workshop, and it is a general approach, we talked about the importance of communication of those couples and the fact that this communication can be the main key for success. And we see that couples that has a good communication and working good together has the best execution, and it's really backed up with numbers. We put a lot of effort in focus, not only focus, but focus on the right thing. And this is why we try to keep low work in progress and embrace changes. We think in general that changes are welcome and there is a lot of room for it. But as long as we manage it right, meaning that we do plan, we do want to know where we go, but plans can definitely be changed as long as it supports the objective and we set with our organization. Another effort that we are making to improve the execution is that we added a role that's called feature lead. We believe that our people are professional and accountable enough for running their own thing, and for managing the work, but it's not always easy to manage those quarterly feature, which is a small project eventually. So each quarter, each team leader sets the feature lead for each feature. The idea is the feature lead will have the ownership, the wide view of the specific feature, and manage it end to end together with the product manager and the people, of course. And feature lead that not necessarily is tech lead, is facilitator, is a leader of the feature. Anyone can be a feature lead in Cloudinary. We are connecting it this day to the career path strategy. And I would say that we see this role improving dramatically the execution.
Nofar, there was a question from you from the audience, from Anat. Who are the participants in the quarterly planning?
So the participants are team leader and product manager. We feel that bringing the all R&D is too much, but we do have a week breakdown. I will touch later on. A week breakdown after the FPE where the team leaders take the plans, share it with the teams, and then we adapt if anything comes up. But sometimes the feature lead, if we know them ahead, are joining the FPE as well. Sure. So I rambled a lot on how we plan, what we do to execute, and what we try to do it the best way. But what about tracking? So actually tracking was a painful spot for us. It took time to find our way there. And if talking about the evolution of the tracking process, I would say we are around the fourth person in this picture. as a baseline, we feel it is very important for us as product R&D organization to meet all together every once in a while. We think that connecting the people to the bigger picture, having team to hear each other and what happens outside of their own world has a great value. The value we gain starts from engagement, goes through cooperation of teams, continue with the sense of belonging, and can end with creativity and ideas for other teams. We want to not only track our plans and execution, but also celebrate success, raise flags, communicate changes, and raise our ads above the day-to-day see and adapt the plans to reality. So we have a few tracking paths. First is a team level sprint checkup. Second is a monthly meeting with all product manager and team leaders. And we also track KPIs. So not just yet, Neta? Yeah. The evolution of the monthly meeting started from a monthly status presented by each team. Each team gathered their current status, risk, problems, demos, and everything related to the quarter planning. That way, each team had its own place, but very quickly it became not interesting for most of the crowd, except the ones that were talking. So we had a few versions of this meeting until we understood we should change it completely. And the next version was making the meeting about highlights. I took the lead on extracting the highlight status from each team. Highlight can be done, releases, risk, the scoped item, large changes, and we also match it with numbers for the entire organization and for the specific team. And in this meeting, we have more emphasis on demos. We really want the team to celebrate success and not only talk about the bad things. I think we feel we found a good spot, a pretty good spot where we are today. We see more engagement. We managed to shorten the time of the meeting. But beside the monthly meeting, we felt that the team needed a platform to raise flags and get help for making decision and prioritization, the scoping, large changes, anything that needed a wide forum at once. This is why we created the Conflict Resolution Forum, which meets every 2 weeks. This forum includes Neta, Uri, myself. Uri is the VP R&D, and all group leaders, and it acts as open office hours. Teams who needed help with anything just popped in a meeting and wait for the turn to consult. That's not super efficient yet. We might give it up some days, but for now, we think it helps the team gather the needs and raise it on time.
Speaking about office hours, so we're pretty much out of time.
Yes.
So you will have an office hour just now in the breakout room. So please just finalize.
Just the KPIs, Neta? So the monthly meeting that I mentioned before contains not only updates in text, but also numbers for the complete picture. The updates and numbers can never stand by their own. They always need to go together. And this is our message to the team. They are not having only numbers that they measure on, they have the updates and they have the complete picture. So we are measuring 3 metrics. First is done. At the beginning, the done percentage was 0 or 1 for an epic. And if an epic was completely done, the actual plan, not the original plan, it would have been considered as done. So we changed it along the way. And the latest change that we changed is that the calculation of the percentage was done is by the deliverable sprint goals that I mentioned before. And it's a fresh change. We are rolling it these days, but I believe it will reflect the done percentage better. The second metric is work in progress. As we want to increase the focus, we are measuring the amount of WIP. And last one is changes. As we welcome change and plan adaptation, we would like to limit those in a way that allow us to be both dynamic and effective, but still deliver feature by the end of the quarter. And to sum it up, as we said during the session, we still have a long way to go, and there is no perfect spot where we wish to be. We wish to do our best. We wish to improve as we go. We wish to change the processes together with the whole organization changes and even embrace it. So we have 4 main takeaways that we would like to share. First is there is no magic solution. There's no copy paste. We try, we find an error, we adapt. Your processes need to fit your organization and culture. Second is find your sweet spot for aligning objectives and independence and creativity versus independence and creativity. Team needs to feel success, but we also need to balance between feeling of success and hunger for improvement. Third is change management. I said before, we embrace changes. Changes are great. We wait for them, but we can't plan them. We do need to manage those and see how they fit in the larger goal. And the last one is communication, accountability, teamwork. We believe that our team should be independent in their own area, should take decisions and communicate properly. The importance of taking ownership and communication with each other is very high in what we described today. And it comes together with trust. It seems easy, it sounds easy, but very hard to adopt. We still have a long way to go there. But the most important thing is work together and enjoy the ride. This is an illustration of me and Neta. And, and I want to take this stage and thank Neta for our ride. I don't think anything would work if not our great communication, understanding, and respect for each other. So thank you, Neta. Thank you all.